How you doing? This is your boy Wendy with No Surface Level Podcast, where we talk about all things Jesus, all things business, and just all things personal. We don't want nothing surface level. But today we have a wonderful, beautiful guest. She is the, how can I say, Leon's to helping a lot of authors, a lot of people who are writing books to get their story out. So I am so blessed to have Miss Stephanie here with me today.
Thank you.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, it's a pleasure to have you. Pleasure. So I brought you in here because, again, you're such an amazing person, and I think the world needs to see who you are, what do you do, what's the purpose behind it, and what got you there. So if you could just introduce yourself, that's you right there.
Hey, I'm Stephanie Outen, and I am the founder, CEO of Cocoon to Wings Publishing, as well as the Stephanie Outen Literary Doula brand, where we service individuals who desire to bring their stories to life through the written word, through books. I do writing coaching as well to be able to support individuals in sharing their stories. And I'm also a podcast host of Storytime with Stephanie, where I do help shed light on author stories, especially independent authors, new authors, to be able to give them a platform to be able to tell the world about the books that they've written.
That is so beautiful. Oh my. So what made you start this? Like, what was it?
So growing up, I read books all the time. That was my thing. Like, I love escaping into the fantasy world of books. And so I remember when I was about 12 years old, I said, I'm going to be a book publisher one day. Wow. And I had no idea what a book publisher was. I didn't even know what they did. I just knew that in the front of every book, the author always thanked their publisher.
What?
So
you always wanted to be that picture in the wow.
I just wanted to be that. I was like, they always thank their publisher, like, so I'm wondering, what does the publisher do? But of course I ended up, going off to college, doing totally different things in life, and was a human resources professional for 22 years.
Wow.
And it was actually in 2013, I began to write my first book, Is This the Way to Joy? Ooh. And that particular book was a journey of me sharing about some experiences that I had walked through in my own life. I had gone through an infertility journey. I was married at the time, and we had tried several methods to be able to get pregnant, and were not able to, and we were unsuccessful. And so I began to write about it. I was journaling about it, and it turned into a book, surprisingly. And so when it came time to publish, I knew a publisher, and I said, hey, would you publish the book for me? And the individual said, no, this is a journey you have to take on your own.
Wow. And
first I was hurt. I was like, what? But then I said, you know what? I am going to try to do this on my own. And I prayed about it, and I said, God, like, I need you to show me, because I don't know what it takes. Right. And I sat down, and I remember it was November of 2015, I think it was. Yeah. And I sat down, I was on my couch, and I heard in my spirit that I was this butterfly, and I was still trapped in the cocoon, waiting to be set free. And I was like, God, what are you trying to say? And then all of a sudden I heard Cocoon to Wings. So that's how I started the company, Cocoon to Wings Publishing.
Wow.
Because God spoke to me on my couch and told me that I was this butterfly, and I needed to come out of the cocoon and set my wings free. And that's what I was going to be able to do by publishing this book. So here it was. I thought, I'm just going to publish my book. God told me I had 7 books in my spirit, and I was going to write 7 books and publish. Well, he had another idea for me.
Got to do that too.
He will. Yeah. Totally shake your surface and put you in a place of, questioning, well, what am I supposed to be doing? Yeah. And so I started the publishing company. I published my first book. I got, my graphic designer, editor, everyone that worked with me on my book. I kept in touch with each of them. And then I was tapped by a multi-best-selling author to be a part of her first anthology.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, like, what is this all about?
Yeah.
And, after much prayer, I said, yeah, I would do it.
Yeah.
And being a part of that project, there was a woman who was in that project with me.
Yeah.
And she called me several months later, and she said, Stephanie, God told me that you're supposed to publish my first book. And I was like, what? God he didn't tell me.
He didn't tell you. Oh my
I
gosh.
started this company
Uh-huh.
to be able to publish my own books. And she said, well, I need you to pray about it because that's what I'm hearing in my spirit. So I said, okay. Now I felt like I didn't know exactly what to do to publish someone else's book because I made a whole bunch of mistakes publishing my own, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays everybody can kind of just self-publish and put a book out there and it's like whatever. But God told me that he had another way for me to do this, to publish and to do it with a level of grace and integrity, and be able to help people to share their stories in the way that would give him glory.
Yeah.
Not for them to, be able to go out there and make all these tons of money because yes, people want that.
Yeah.
But he wanted their stories shared in a way that he would get the glory and that he was going to use me and use Cocoon to Wings Publishing and the team to be able to do that. And I said, okay. And so when I heard him say that, I went back to her and I said, okay, if I can gather the team that helped me with my book, then I will publish your book. And so I got with everybody and I said, hey, I think God has taken me in a new direction. And I believe that I'm supposed to start helping other people publish their stories. Would you help me? And they said, anything for you. And then I literally have that same team today, 7 years later. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. So you've helped a lot of people publish.
A lot. And people always ask me a number, but I don't count.
Really?
I don't count.
You know what? I'll be with, if it's something that's God's given, I think, and it's just my, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I think people who keep counts of things like that, it's like you're kind of making it a selfish thing. Right. Like, you know what? I did 50 something books, 100 something books. And it's like you're making it a praise type of thing.
Yeah. And I think people take that in so many different ways. I think for some people, they need the numbers because numbers help them see their productivity.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's okay. For me, it was just about, again, getting the stories told in a positive way. Yeah. And I just don't worry about the numbers, right? Because I just feel like, God, I'm only going to work with the people that you say work with. Yeah. And if 100 people come to me in a month and God only says work with one, I'm only going to work with one. Wow. Because I don't want stress that comes with dealing with people that God did not say to work with. Yeah. Because I've been in that situation before where I did it on my own and I was like, oh, I'm just going to work with this person because, you might need money. Yeah. And that was a big mistake. Yeah. And so God showed me that if I would serve him through this business, that the clients would just continue to come. And I have never been I've never advertised. Like I may put a post out saying we're taking new clients, but I don't advertise. Like you don't see me out there constantly talking about the business because I get so many clients. 95% of my clients are through word of mouth, through referrals. And that's been a blessing for me.
Hey, you are absolutely amazing. Especially having one of my cousins write her books, and that her book is extremely powerful. So, do you only work with people who have like typical stories, like if they have trauma stories? And so, is there a specific group of people that God will lead you to?
Yeah. So I actually have two arms of my business. I have the non-children's book side and I have the children's book side.
Oh, you have
I do. What? We publish children's books.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the non-children's book side, I do have I would say my ideal client. Okay. Right? Where I do work with men, but I love to work with women because I believe that we share similar stories. Wow. Right. And so there is the woman who has faced trauma. There's the woman who has, suffered under the weight of generational curses. There's the woman who still struggles to understand, her identity, her worth, her value. And those are things that are in me, and have been in me and have been my personal journey. Yeah. And so God has called those women to me, right? Because we speak the same language.
That's true.
And so I can help them to unravel their story. And I work with men too. I've had several male clients. I'm working with a man right now that I'm coaching through writing his story. But again, there's a certain, I would say archetype. There's a certain person, that has experienced those traumas and they don't necessarily know how to unlock it to tell the story.
Yeah.
And so I'm not just a writing coach, I'm a transformational agent. That's what God has called me as well.
Mm.
And so I help you to transform through helping you unlock the story. What's in you and how do we get it out?
Yeah.
And so many times, you know, you mentioned your cousin, even her as an example, there's things that we face in our childhood that we just cannot identify, even in adulthood, why we are the way that we are.
And do you think probably that's the reason why there's a lot of books haven't been published or sent out? Because I'm thinking, like, even myself, I have a very great story growing up to where I am now, but it's just that there's that there's something that's restricting me to like get. So what do you is that something that you see on a common basis?
I do.
Really?
There's a lot of apprehension. Sometimes people are afraid to tell their story. And I will have people come and say, I know God is calling me to write this book, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid to share my story.
Yeah.
And I understand that, right? Because even in writing my first book, I wrote it as fiction because I didn't want people to know this was my story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I created these fictional characters and I told my life in certain aspects through these characters, right? But it was a way for me to release, and it was what God had given me at that time. Later, I shared, you know, my true story when I was in the anthology.
Yeah.
But yes, there is apprehension because people get scared. They don't want people to know their life.
And you help them, coach them through that process of fear. Wow.
Yes. I coach them through, the fear.
Oh, yes. I'm gonna need you, cause not only for me, because you know the Bible says, "For we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies," and I just feel like the testimony part is the hardest part.
Yeah.
And it's like you have a testimony that you want to speak about so far, because that testimony is what's going to help free a lot of people.
Yes.
And it's the freedom that a lot of people are looking for.
Yeah.
But it's like we choose to be restricted. And it's like, my question has always been, is it a mental thing or is it a spiritual thing?
It can be both.
Really?
It can be both.
So from a mindset, it's more so for me, I'm pretty good to speak for a lot of people. A mindset thing, it's like, are people going to read it? Are people going to like it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then from a spiritual aspect, will I be free if I tell my story? Will I be like, is there some sort of deliverance of me talking about it? Because like, I used to think that, you know, being delivered for these kind of things are more so you go in the church and people are saying, come on,
Yeah.
But then I'm starting to learn that sometimes deliverance can be just saying, love yourself.
Yeah.
The words, God loves you.
Yeah.
God is, he thinks highly of you.
Yes.
And as I learn more about this, I'm like, God, and it's like, the more I tap into that, God is saying, there's so much more I want you to tell people. So much more I want to tell them. And then I'm like, okay, God, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Boom. I don't know about that. So what would be a tip to kind of help like individuals like myself who are going through that process?
So one of the things that I like to tell people is when you are in the place where you know that God has told you to write your story, not you feel like, right?
There's a difference between feeling like and knowing.
Yes.
Okay.
When you know that God has said for you to write your story, you know that he's going to equip you to be able to do it. And he's going to walk you through the healing process at the same time that you're writing the story, right? And so you have to be honest with yourself and you have to be honest with God. What am I supposed to share? Because there are parts of our story that are literally just for us and God. It's not for the world to know.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
There are things in my story that no one will ever know, not even my closest friends.
Really?
Because God said that's for you and I.
Wow.
Right? And so when you have the conversation with God and you say, God, what is it? What are the parts of my story that are the most impactful that will help to set someone else free? Even if I got to be embarrassed telling it. Right? Even if I have to get to a place where I'm like, I want to go hole up somewhere because I don't want people to know this, but I know that by sharing it, one, I'm going to be free
Yeah.
and I'm going to help someone else.
Yeah.
What are those things?
Yeah.
Right? And when you can do that, you don't even realize just by having that conversation with God, you are already on the path to healing.
Mm.
Right?
Mhm.
And so that's one of the things that I say to people is have the conversation first on what you're supposed to share. Because you could literally download your whole life, but what impact will that have?
Mm.
Right?
So starting off with having that conversation with God it's the beginning process of sharing your story.
Absolutely.
And I guess what a lot of people tend to mess up on is they don't have that conversation with God. They have a conversation with self.
Yeah.
And that's where you come in when you say, this, it's not a feeling. You have to know if God told you to do this. And there's a lot of and it's a question I want to ask you. There's I've seen people put books. They probably have a book every 2-3 months.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's sometimes I'm like, help me understand. First month your book is about relationship, then the next month your book is about building blocks, and I'm like, how can someone just develop these kind of things? Is it from a genuine place, or is it from a place where they made a lot of money from the first book? Now they're trying to test their luck with the second book again. So do you think that's what it is in some cases?
What I'll say is only they know.
Only they know. That's true.
Only they know, right? I do believe that God has given his children many gifts, many skill sets, and a lot of ideas and information, right? And how he allows you to share it is between you and him.
Yeah.
So if he says that you have 50 books in you, and those 50 are all different, then you can do that. But you have to know the audience that you're appealing to.
Yeah.
So if I'm writing about relationships this month and next month I'm writing about welding, maybe in that month, something has shifted, my audience has changed, and I'm familiar with welding. And so now I can write a book that helps people understand about welding. And I use that as a joke, right? But if you know that you've been purposed for something, and you know that you have the knowledge, the skill set, and the wisdom from heaven to be able to deliver it, then why not? But what you also don't want to do is seem mixed up and confused.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't want to be that person that is putting out 50 books and they're all so different, because then people can't figure out who you are. And the reason that people connect to your books and to your story is because of you. And so if they're confused because you might be confused and you haven't, figured out where you're supposed to land, then how can you actually help people do the same?
That's true. And so then my question is, what about that person who want to write a book about relationships, but now the trend is relationships? Everybody is talking about relationships. Everybody got a book. Everybody got an opinion. Everybody got to. So what would you tell that one person who have a story they want to talk about relationship, but then they looking at everybody else is doing the same thing? What would you tell them?
I say stop looking at everybody else.
I love it.
Like, for real, stop looking at everybody else. There's a million coaches. There's a million writing coaches. You'll see a whole ton of people calling themselves a transformational coach, transformational agent. No one else should be calling themselves a literary doula, because that is trademarked, right? So
I love it. Okay, now don't play with her.
Don't play with it.
Okay, she's standing on business.
Because I help you conceive, nurture, and birth your literary baby. So that's trademarked. But
that is beautiful, by the way. I love that.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you. It actually came out of a workshop that I had done, and one of the participants said, "Oh my God, you're like a literary midwife." Right? And I said, no, because the midwife is the one, they'll get up on the table with you to help you have that baby. But the doula is there from the very beginning.
Wow.
The doula is going to be there to help you conceive. Like, what are you supposed to be eating? What are you supposed to be doing to get your body right? Care for the baby. They're going to help you conceive.
Yes.
Nurture that baby while it's in the womb, and then help you give birth to it. That's me.
Wow.
When it comes to writing, I'm going to help you conceive, nurture, and birth that literary baby. right?
You is
So-
a beast.
And there's no confusion about that.
Yeah.
Because God revealed my identity to me. And that's another thing.
Mm.
When you know your identity, you get to live in it and you get to walk in that. And God told me I was a beacon of light, created to be able to help people shed light on people's stories.
Mm.
And so that's what I do in everything that I do,
Wow.
through book publishing, through writing coaching, through my podcast. That's what I do.
Mm.
I shed light on people's stories and I help them to be able to bring their story to light.
Mm.
So there is no confusion. Now you may get insight into my life if you check my social media. I share certain things about my life, but you always know who I am
Mm.
at the heart because God revealed my identity and I have to live in that.
Mm.
So if you are that person that, you're out there and you're writing like these hundreds of different books and no one can figure it out, that means you probably don't know your identity yet either.
Jesus. Wow. So, so people, it is crazy. It brings you back to, I made a comment on, I had another guest here and I said, people find their identities in their trauma. They identify themselves through their trauma.
Woo.
So because they identify themselves through their trauma, you think that it's you.
Wow. But it's always the trauma speaking for you.
Trauma speaking for you. And I was sitting here with Joy, and I was like, Joy, she's a phenomenal person.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling her, she said that people want to be pastored. People want a pastor. They want this leader. They want this, but they don't want to be pastored. They don't want to face correction. They don't want to face the realization of what's going on in their life. So then I look at it as, well, what if it's not the fact that they don't want to trust God or trust the leadership of the direction, but their trauma, their hurt could be guiding them.
Yeah.
Instead of really looking for truth. And that brings me back to like writing a book. You're saying that people are writing hundreds and hundreds of books and not having no sort of impact. Could that be because they're probably writing a book identifying themselves as the truth?
Yeah. That very well could be it.
Yeah.
And it could be, to that they're just, again, they're out for recognition. They could be out for the money. And so they are jumping on the trends. That's one thing, like for me, I don't really like to jump on trends. So yeah, I check social media. I enjoy seeing what other people are doing from a place of congratulating, right? But not from a place of comparison, because comparison will kill you.
Like, girl,
It will kill you.
faster than a bullet.
Okay, personally, professionally.
Yes.
And I'm like, if I'm sitting here worried about what you're doing, then I don't even have the time and the space to be able to do anything because I'm so focused on what you're doing. Right. And so you have to be in a place of understanding what is your purpose.
Yeah.
And we have an ultimate purpose, but we go through seasons, right? And you have to, like the sons of Issachar, you have to be able to understand the times and the seasons that you're in.
Yeah.
Because it might be a season of rest. So when I'm in a season of rest, you're not going to see me all over social media putting out stuff right? Because God says this is your season of rest. But if it's a season of productivity, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to I got this program, I got this, I'm putting this out there because that's what God has said I'm supposed to do. But that's when you know and you're in tune. And I'm not saying I'm always in tune with heaven, right? Because we go through our seasons too. Where we're like, God, I got to even take a break from you, right? Because I'm sitting over here trying to figure out what's going on with me, right? But when I get into that place where I'm like, God, I got to get into the stillness, that one-on-one time with you so that I can know what am I supposed to be doing?
Jesus.
And what am I supposed to be doing that's for me as Stephanie? And what am I supposed to be doing that's for me and others? And what am I supposed to be doing that's just for others, but it's going to come through me as a conduit?
Yeah.
Right? That comes from seeking him. That comes from understanding him.
Jesus.
That comes from even understanding yourself and how you hear from God.
Yeah.
Right? Because I know how I hear from God.
Yeah.
I asked the Lord years ago, I don't tell people how I hear from the Lord, but I said, I need specific ways in which I can hear from you.
Yeah.
Because when that happens, I know it's you.
Oh, yes.
And when I get those confirmations, I'm like, okay, God, I know it's you. So if he says, this is just for you, Stephanie, then I'm over here by myself working on this. And nobody needs to know.
Mm.
But if he says, hey, this is for you because in this process, I'm trying to dig up, I'm trying to excavate something out of you, and I'm going to use you to help others too, then I know, okay, then I got to do this through a program, a service, one-on-one coaching, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if he says, hey, this is just for other people, then I need to seek him for, okay, then I'm not supposed to get anything out of this.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to be doing? It might be something free.
Yeah.
Right? It might be some type of mentorship. It might just be through my Facebook group, something like that.
Yeah.
So I have to know without a doubt. And I've messed up, you know.
Mm.
I've done things where I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to put this out as a service, and you make a little bit of money off of it, and that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing because it was just for me.
Mm.
Right? And so I learned from those mistakes or lessons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because those lessons did turn into blessings for
Yes, they
me
did.
because I learned the next time.
Mm.
Right? And so, yeah, I don't even know if I answered your question because I feel like I went all off.
This is so good.
Good.
This is so good, Stephanie. Oh my
I need to
God.
take my earring off. I think it's hitting up against the mic.
No, it's if it if it does, then I'll just
Okay.
edit it.
Okay.
But this is so good. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Man. So, how important is faith in this journey?
Faith is everything
Yeah.
for me,
Mm.
right? I get emotional because, there's times where I feel like I have not been faithful,
Oh.
but God was still faithful, right? And if I did not have faith, I literally would not be where I am today. I mean, October 1st of 2018, God told me I was going to step into the deep, and I had to trust him because I had just come off of a lucrative job. Again, I was in human resources. I worked for a pharmacy. I was doing well financially. I didn't want for anything. And that company, the arm of that business that I worked for, went out of business, closed down. And September of 2018, I was losing my job.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, like my income, like everything. And my lease was up in this townhouse that I was renting at the time. I was in Orlando. And I'm like, oh my God, it was like a series of things were all happening at once in my life. And I was like, God, what are you doing?
Wow.
And I had opportunities for other HR positions coming to me. Literally, there was one man that I used to work with. He went to work somewhere else and he was like, Stephanie, I have an HR manager job lined up for you. It's your job. All you have to do is fill out the application. I was like, okay. I go to fill out the application. My computer crashed. I get the computer to come back up. I'm like, okay, let me try to submit this again. Something else happened where the application wasn't going through. It kept saying it was an error.
Yeah. I
was like, okay, I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to wait one day. The man's calling me, Stephanie, like, I just need the application. That's all you got. I said, I tried. I'm going to try again. Something's happening. The third time wouldn't go through again. And I said, okay, God, I hear you. I am not supposed to take this job. I said, okay. So I had to call the man and I said, I'm sorry, but I really believe the Lord is telling me I'm not supposed to take this job. And he's like, are you serious? I said, I'm serious. And he said, when he told me the salary, I was like, Jesus, are you sure?
yeah, it'd be like that. Yeah.
But I said, I'm positive. God said, I'm not supposed to take this job. He said, well, I will not argue with God. I said, okay. He said, but if anything changes, the job is yours. And I said, okay. Whew, right? And I was like, God, what am I supposed to do? And at that time, I wanted to come back to Tampa. That was my desire. And God knew that. So he was lining everything up for me to leave Orlando and come back to Tampa. And, my mom is ill and I wanted to be here to be able to help take care of her. So I said, God, whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
October 1st, I was back here. I moved back to Tampa, like within a very short span of time. I packed up all my stuff, moved in with my brother and his family. And I was like, I got to start life over. And God told me that I was going to have to step into the deep and I was going to have to trust him for everything.
Jesus.
And he meant everything because like my financial resources were drying up left and right. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
And that's when I had to take the biggest faith walk of my life. And I had to trust God. And within days of me moving here, I got my first client. And I was like,
Mm.
what?
Okay. Stop playing with them.
Okay. I got my first client. And she came off as an HR client. And I was like, okay, that's good because I'm fresh off of HR and she had pharmacy. I was like, well, I know HR for pharmacy. I could do this. Yeah. Then she came back about a book. And literally, she was the catalyst for everything to change in my life. And it was because I trusted God. And I remember I put a post out on Facebook and I was like, God said, it's time for me to step into the deep. And I'm going to step and I'm going to trust him. And so my faith is everything. If I didn't have my faith, I would not be here today as a full-time entrepreneur where there's months where I don't get an income, but I don't starve. Right? My family is still taken care of. We have a roof over our head. I still have a car to drive. Like, because he's my source.
That's right.
So faith is everything.
Jesus.
Is everything.
Let me do this one thing.
Yeah.
I can hear this. Yeah. Just put it right. Yeah, that's much better. Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Man, that's, my gosh. And it's through that faith, God continue to put the right people in your journey, in your path.
Yeah.
And so what would you tell someone who don't have that faith but want to write that book?
Man. If you don't have faith and you still want to write a book, first I would have to ask you, like, where are you drawing from? You know? Because you can draw from an empty well, right? You could put your bucket down there, but nothing's going to come up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so that's what it's like when you don't have faith. You put in your bucket into an empty well. So what would you be pulling on to be able to write the book?
Yeah.
Now, it depends on what you're writing the book about.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If it's not faith-based, then sure, you're writing from head knowledge and maybe your experiences.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? But if you want to write something that's transformational and inspirational and will lift people's spirits, then you got to pull from faith. Right? You got to pull and draw from the well that does not run dry. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what faith is. And to be able to write a book without faith, you just got to know your right audience, because there's an audience out there.
Yeah.
For any book that you write, there is an audience. You just have to know how to go after them.
Wow.
And when you don't have faith, you just know you're going after the faithless.
Has there ever been a time during the process of, your publishing company and all these great things that you have going up that you just want to throw in the towel?
Oh my God.
That's that question, girl. That's what it, man.
Many times.
My goodness.
Many times. Actually, this is 2023. So in 2022, the end of 2022, I was like, I am done. I stopped taking clients. I was like, I am not doing this anymore. I was turning away clients. I had people coming to me, God said for you to write my book. No, he didn't, because he told me shut this thing down.
Ooh.
And I was sending them to other publishers.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm done. I'm sick of this. One, it consumed so much of my time and my energy. And it was, I felt like it was a distraction from the things that God wanted me to do. Ooh. But then I had to have a heart-to-heart with him. And I was like, but you gave me this business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you also can, and I had to get to a place of seeing where, was it my Ishmael or was it my Isaac?
Ooh.
And which one did I want?
Yeah.
Right? I still have the opportunity to do what God has called me to do through this business, through Cocoon to Wings and through the Stephanie Outen Literary Doula brand. But I know that there is more. And I had to put things into proper perspective. So now, 7 years later, I had to, because I started this business in 2016, but didn't start doing it full time until 2018.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I consider the whole time 7 years. And now I'm in a place of, okay, I have to get a team together so that I can be pulled out. So not that the business is not important and not that I don't want to still do it. I just can't be active in the day to day. So thank God he sent me an amazing woman to be able to start on the children's book side. So she handles everything children's book side. And hopefully we can get her to the place where she can handle all of it. So I can just be the CEO and strategize and be over here working on all the other creative ventures that he wants me to do. Right. And so, yes, I definitely want to throw in the towel. I was burnt out. I was burnt out. I would go to bed crying every night. Like, God, how did you give me this business that's a burden?
Wow.
Why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And he said, I didn't give you the business to be a burden. You turned it into a burden. You turned it into a burden. And I was like, I had to change my perspective.
Don't you hate that? Like, you can't give this to me, God. You know, because I remember there's a point when I first started my production company, I almost quit cold turkey. I almost sold every equipment you could think. I almost sold it. And it wasn't as crazy. It's first time telling the story. It wasn't until I was on set with Tyler Perry, and I was on one of his shows called Bruh. I was in season 2, and I'm sitting down, and Tyler Perry walks up to me. He taps my shoulder. He says, "What's your name?" I said, "My name is Wendy," and he's like, "That name is special," and he literally says, "Don't give up."
Wow.
And I'm like, this guy don't know my life. I just work for you, man. You don't know my life like that. He says, there's something about that name.
Yeah.
Don't give up. And that day, I promise that whole week, it just kept playing in my head.
Yeah.
Your name is special. Don't give up. Your name is special. Then it went to biblical time. Before you was formed in your mother's womb, I knew what you was going to do. And I knew the callings and plans in your life.
That's right.
Don't give up.
That's
I gave you that name for a reason. Oh, and trust me, I get it all. Where does Wendy come from? I wish I could tell y'all.
Look, you got the wind of God.
Man, it wasn't until somebody was like, wind of God. You know that means Barack? I'm like,
look at that. Barack. Barack.
You talking about the president? No. The Hebrew Barak means the breath of God. That's I'm gonna keep that going. There. Thank y'all. You know, and there's so many people out there who's just like you and I, who's on the verge of throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
And what would you tell them?
Simply, don't give up.
Don't give up.
Because if God has ordained you for it and He purposed you for it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you go through. You got to see it all the way through.
Yeah.
That means the storms, the trials, the frustrations, the joys, the excitement. It's like having a baby. And I've never had a child, but so I've heard this from people. It's like having a baby and, you have the baby and you see them grow and there's all these fantastic moments with the baby and it's so joyous. But then they get into the teenage years and you're like frustrated, and I do take care of my niece and nephew. They're teenagers and I'm like frustrated. And it's like me saying, okay, I just want to get rid of them now. What? No.
Yeah.
You would never do that.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to see it all the way through.
Yeah.
So you think of it as this is the child that God has given you. And this is the child that God gave me.
Yeah.
This is what He birthed through me.
And one thing about having a child, they will expose some things about you that you don't even know you have, girl. Oh my God.
That's what they were meant to do.
Jesus. And so anything that, and this is from my perspective, anything, a business or anything that God has called you to and He's given to you, you have to take it as your child.
Yeah.
And once you accept that as this is my baby, okay.
Yes.
You better watch it because your baby about to expose you.
Yes.
They're about to expose your weakness. It's about to expose your frustration.
Yes.
It is your baby, and I love that. Gosh, this is so good.
but you have to see it all the way through,
Yeah.
no matter what. And so, it does seem cliche when we say don't give up, but it's true.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to connect with it, connect with your business at a whole different level.
Yeah.
And you do have to have your strategy meetings with the Father.
Yeah.
Especially if you are a solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You
don't have a team, it's just
don't have a team, it's just you. Or like me, I have contractors, but they're my team.
Yeah.
But I can't go to them first for strategy. I got to go to God.
Yeah.
And then I got to come back to them and say, okay, this is what the Father said we got to do. This is how we got to do some things differently. And I am blessed with the team that I have because every one of them is believers. And so I can go to them and say, look, we got to pray because I don't know what.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And they'll be like, okay, well, here's what I'm hearing from the Lord. We got to do this. We need to re-strategize. We need to, okay, thank you for telling me. And now let me go back to the Father, confirm it, and then let's go. Right? So you have to be able to have your strategy time with the Father so that you know what to do. But you also got to have what I like to call like that execution time with him. Like, okay, now I have the strategy and the framework, but how do I do this? How do I execute on this? Right. And he'll show you. Like I'm visual. That's the gift that he has given me. I see things. And so he'll allow me to go into a dream and literally see all the pieces come together. And I could wake up and write it all down. Okay, this is how I have to do it. I have to start from here. I got to do that.
Wow.
And that's a blessing. Right?
Yes.
Whew. But that comes from connecting with him. And you can't just connect with him on the personal level. You got to connect with him on the business level too. Right? Because if you in the boardroom, he's on the board. He's sitting right there.
Yeah.
And you got to go to him and say, hey, I have questions. I need direction. I need help.
Yeah.
And that's what he's there to do. And so as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, like you have to put him in his rightful place.
Oh, my Jesus.
When you are anointed, when you know that you have a God-given business, right? You have to put him in the right place so that your business will succeed.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. So to wrap this thing up, what is next for Stephanie? What is next for Stephanie? Because I'm following y'all. I need to know what's next because I'm probably one of your biggest fans.
Oh, thank you for that. What's next for Stephanie? So I definitely am going to continue to cultivate those opportunities to be able to tell stories.
Wow.
Through podcasting, through other media types of ventures. That's my ultimate desire. And I know that's what he's birthing through me next, to be able to have new platforms to share more stories, because I do believe that stories heal everything.
Oh, yes.
And I want people to be able to hear stories and share stories and come together in community to be able to talk. Because we heal through community.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's something that's coming up next for Stephanie. Now, I have to make myself available for the Lord to use me how he wants to. And so I just remain open because tomorrow he may say, Stephanie, you about to go do something else? Okay. What we going to do and how? So, but I just know that he's always going to keep me in a place of being able to help people to share their stories.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
You are so amazing.
You. So are you.
Oh my God.
This platform, I thank you for it.
Oh yes. I think when God gave me this in my heart, God said, I want you to have people who not only impacted you, but also going to impact others. And even though I haven't even known you that long, I just felt like you've impacted me so much.
Thank you.
You really have. Like, I love listening to you. Even when you was here speaking with the other young lady, I forgot her name.
Shalon.
Shalon. When you were speaking with Shalon, I was like, oh my God, this woman is so powerful. She's so powerful. And then I was just like, oh no, you're in my life for a reason. Now you're not. Yeah, you're not going nowhere now.
Look, he said I'm not going anywhere. So
oh yeah,
y'all may see me show up on the show again.
Oh yeah. This ain't no one-time thing. I can tell you that now. But so tell the people where they can find you.
Okay, so to reach me, you can go to our website, which is Cocoon to Wings Books. That's BOOKS, so plural, cocoonswingsbooks.com, for all things publishing. And you can visit Stephanie Outen, that's OUTTEN. So Stephanie, STEPHANIE, Outen, OUTTEN.com for all things Stephanie Outen, my coaching services. And you can, reach out to me. Our phone number is 813-906-9464. And you can reach us on social media as well. So on Instagram at Stephanie Outen, Stephanie Outen on Facebook as well. Or you can find me at Stephanie Outen Literary Doula as well on Facebook.
All right, great. Well, you guys hear it here first. The wonderful, blessed, anointed Stephanie's here, and to help you guys spread your story, spread, the things that God has been doing in your life. And guys, let me tell you, it is very important that you guys do that. But you have to know it's from God. You can't feel like it's from God. Okay? So thank you guys again for watching the No Surface Level podcast, where we talk all things Jesus, all things business, and just your journey. And we just thank you. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
I love you so much.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you, Wendy.
All right.
And may the hand of God continue to bless you. May the wind of God continue to blow you. May your feet stand on solid ground at all times. And may you allow God to guide you in every decision, in every action, and in everything that you do. And I pray that blessing over you and your family.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, y'all see that? Y'all see that? That's what I'm talking about.